$47,000. That was the number my grandmother wrote into her will the year before she died. She wanted me to go to college without worrying about money. I was 12 when she told me, and I believed her when she said it would be there waiting. It wasn't. I found out on a Tuesday night, sitting at my kitchen table, writing a check for $614 to my student loan company. The same check I'd been writing every month for 6 years. I picked up the phone and called my mother. "The college fund?" I said. "Grandma's money. I need to know where it went." My mother got quiet. Not surprised quiet, caught quiet. Then she said 5 words that changed everything between us. "We gave it to Victor." My brother, Victor, 31 years old. No degree, no job, no plans. She said they used the money for his rehab. She said he needed it more than I needed college. My name was Kate. I was 28, still writing that check every month, and my brother was living like he'd won the lottery. Victor never went to rehab. I know because 2 weeks later I found him on Instagram, standing on the deck of a boat with a drink in his hand. #blessed. And the boat didn't look cheap. The night after that phone call, I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with my laptop and did what I always do when something doesn't add up. I pulled records. Being a paralegal teaches you one thing above everything else. People lie, but paperwork doesn't. I called the credit union the next morning. My grandmother had set up a custodial account there with my name on it. The woman on the phone told me the account had been closed 14 months ago. The withdrawal was made in person by my father, Frank. She said the full amount was taken in one transaction. $47,312. 14 months. That meant they drained the account while I was still making loan payments, while I was still skipping meals to cover the minimum. And nobody said a word. None of this was new with Victor. When he got his DUI at 22, my parents spent $15,000 on a defense attorney. When he couldn't keep an apartment, they covered his rent for 3 years running. My mother called it helping. I worked 2 jobs through community college, nights at a diner, weekends in retail. The one time I asked my parents for a loan, my mother told me I needed to learn responsibility. I was 19. Victor was 22, asleep on their couch, and nobody said a word to him. But the college fund was different. That wasn't their money. My grandmother wrote my name in her will. She sat me down in her kitchen and told me it was mine and that nobody could touch it. My father's signature proved her wrong. I pulled up Victor's Instagram again and scrolled. Boat trips, restaurants, a long weekend at the coast with his girlfriend. All of it in the last year, while I was budgeting gas money to get to a law firm where I helped other people fight for what was theirs. The boat kept coming back in his photos. White hull, blue stripe, and Victor had never owned anything worth more than a used pickup truck. The next day at work, I spent my lunch break looking at that boat. I closed my office door and screenshotted every photo Victor had posted. There were 9 of them over the past several months. The boat was white with a blue stripe along the hull, mid-size, the kind you take out on a lake or a calm bay. In one photo, I could just barely make out the name painted on the back, Lady Luck. I opened a public marine registration database. Working in a law office means you learn where to look for just about anything. I typed in Lady Luck and filtered by state. Nothing came back under Victor's name. Nothing under my parents' names either. I tried variations, tried the county where the marina seemed to be. Nothing matched anyone in my family. That was strange, but not surprising. Victor never registered anything properly in his life. But boats have a different tracking system. Every vessel has a hull identification number stamped into the fiberglass, like a VIN on a car. And in one of Victor's photos, the hull was visible near the waterline. I zoomed in until the image went grainy. But I could read the number. I typed it into the database and hit search. The result loaded in 3 seconds. The name on the registration wasn't Victor's. It belonged to a man named Robert Tanner from a marina 200 miles north. The registration was active, the fees were current, and next to the record there was a small red flag icon. I clicked it. The flag linked to a police report filed 8 months earlier. Robert Tanner had reported his boat stolen from a private dock. The description matched everything. White hull, blue stripe, 24 feet. Lady Luck. My brother wasn't just spending my college fund, he was living on a stolen boat, and the man it belonged to was still looking for it. I sat at my desk with my hands shaking. Not from fear, from something I hadn't expected. Relief, because for the first time in 31 years, Victor had done something my parents couldn't explain away with a phone call and a check. I didn't go to my parents right away. The paralegal in me knew better. You don't show your hand until you know what cards you're holding, so I spent 3 days building a file. I printed Victor's Instagram screenshots. I printed the Marine Registry results showing Robert Tanner as the legal owner. I printed the police report summary with the case number and the responding officer's name. Then I put all of it in a manila folder and drove to my parents' house on Friday evening. My mother opened the door with the look she always wore when I showed up. The one that said she already knew why I was there, and she already thought I was being dramatic. My father sat in a living room pretending to watch television. I sat down and opened the folder on the coffee table. "Victor's not in rehab," I said. "He never was. You gave him $47,000 of my money and he bought a boat." I spread the Instagram photos across the table. My mother picked one up, studied it for a long time, and said, "Well, at least he's happy now." I looked at my father. He hadn't moved, hadn't looked up from the screen. I said his name. Nothing. He sat there watching a show I doubt he could name, because looking at me would have meant facing what he'd done. So I laid down the next pages. The registration, the police report, the stolen vessel flag. "That boat is stolen," I said. "Reported missing 8 months ago. If I found this during a lunch break, the police will too." My mother put the paper down. Something shifted behind her eyes. Not guilt, not concern for me, fear for Victor. She turned to my father and said, "Frank, call him, tell him to get rid of it." They weren't going to apologize. They weren't going to hold him responsible. They were going to help him hide it. And something inside me went very cold. I left without saying goodbye, sat in my car in their driveway and made a decision. If they wanted to protect Victor, fine. I was done protecting any of them. My phone rang at 7:15 the next morning. "Victor." "No, hello. What the hell are you doing going to mom and dad with that garbage?" "The boat is stolen, Victor. Deal with it before someone else does." He laughed, not a nervous laugh, a mean one, the kind that said he'd been getting away with things his whole life and expected this to be no different. Then his voice dropped and he said something that made my blood go still. "Keep digging, Kate, and I'll tell everyone at your firm what happened your sophomore year." The DUI. I was 20, a terrible night and a terrible decision. But unlike Victor, I didn't call my parents for a lawyer. I took the bus to court, paid the fine, did the community service, and handled it alone. Victor had found out somehow, and now he was using it like a weapon. But threats only work if you're afraid of what comes next. A closed misdemeanor from 8 years ago doesn't end a paralegal career. Possession of stolen property does. "Go ahead," I said, and I hung up. 2 days later, my mother called my office. Not my cell, the firm's main line. She asked for the managing partner by name and told the receptionist I was having a mental breakdown, that the firm should know I was unstable. She used the word danger. My boss Angela found me in the file room that afternoon. She closed the door and told me what my mother had said, word for word. Then she asked if I was okay. I didn't cry. I pulled up my phone and showed her everything. The screenshots, the registration, the police report, the bank records. Angela looked through all of it. When she finished, she said 5 words. "Document everything. We've got you." That was the first time in this mess that somebody chose my side. Not because they had to, because they looked at the facts and decided I deserved it. Angela said, "Document everything." So I did. I got a copy of my grandmother's will from the county probate office. The language was clear. That money was for my education, not Victor's, not the family's, mine. I pulled the credit union withdrawal record. My father had walked in with a power of attorney listing himself as custodian. 1 signature, 1 transaction, $47,000 gone. No partial withdrawals, no hesitation. I also pulled 6 years of student loan statements. $52,000 in total debt because without the fund, I'd had to borrow everything. Interest had added nearly $5,000 on top. Every number pointed to the same story. Everything I needed was in that folder. But I wasn't done yet. I searched online for Robert Tanner and found a phone number listed under a marine repair business near the Northern Marina. I called on a Wednesday afternoon. He answered on the second ring. "Mr. Tanner," I said, "my name is Kate. I think I know where your boat is." Robert Tanner didn't say anything for a long time. I told him everything. Victor, the Instagram photos, the whole number matching his police report. When I finished, the line was so quiet I thought the call had dropped. Then he spoke. "I've been looking for that boat for 8 months. Insurance wouldn't pay out because the investigation was still open. I've been covering the dock fees on a boat I don't even have." He told me Lady Luck had been docked at a private slip he rented near a lake up north. One Saturday, it was there, tied the way he always left it. Next Saturday, it was gone. No cameras, no witnesses. Police told him marine theft cases almost never got solved unless the vessel turned up by accident. He'd been driving to different lakes on weekends for months, checking marinas on his own, looking for a white hull with a blue stripe. I didn't find it by accident, I said. I went looking. And I can tell you exactly where it's docked right now. Victor kept the boat at a small marina about 40 minutes from my parents' house. He'd posted enough photos that I could identify the dock. One shot even had the marina's welcome sign in the background. Robert said he'd call the police that afternoon. He asked if he could give them my name. I said yes. Give them everything. Then he asked something I wasn't expecting. Why are you helping me? Do you know him? I told him the truth. He's my brother, and he bought that boat with money he stole from me. Robert went quiet. Then he said, I'm sorry. I said, don't be. Just make the call. He made it that afternoon. And the next 72 hours changed everything. 3 days later, 2 officers from the county marine unit drove to the marina. Robert called me that evening with the details. He'd spoken directly to the investigating officer. The marina was small, maybe 30 slips, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone else's boat. Victor's slip was near the end of the second dock. Lady Luck was tied up right where I said it would be. Victor was on the boat when the officers walked down the dock, sitting on the back deck with his girlfriend. They identified themselves and asked if the boat was his. He said yes. They asked for registration. He said it was at home. One officer read the whole number off the side while the other radioed it in. According to Robert, that was when Victor's face changed. The confidence that had carried him through every mess his parents cleaned up started to crack. The radio came back in under a minute. Stolen vessel, flagged 8 months ago, matching hull number, matching description, matching name on the stern. The officer asked Victor to explain how he came to have a boat reported stolen. Victor said he bought it from a private seller, cash deal. Had a receipt at home. They asked for the seller's name. He gave one. They ran it, no match anywhere, no boat sales history, no person by that name in the state database. They arrested him on the dock, in front of his girlfriend, in front of the marina owner, in front of 2 men who'd been washing their boat 3 slips over and stopped to watch. Handcuffs on a sunny Thursday afternoon. My mother called that evening screaming. I had destroyed the family. Victor would go to prison and it was my fault. I'd always been jealous. This was about bitterness and nothing else. I let her talk. When she ran out of air, I said one thing. He stole from me. Then he bought something someone else stole. And you helped him do both. She hung up. We didn't speak for 3 months. The investigation moved fast after that. Prosecutors subpoenaed my parents' bank records. The transfer was right there. $47,000 wired from my father's account to Victor's checking account. No rehab facility, no treatment center, just a wire to a man who used my future to buy a stolen boat. Victor took a plea deal. 2 years probation, full restitution to Robert Tanner, and a felony on his record. No more boat, no more #blessed. His public defender argued he didn't know it was stolen, but the fake receipt and the invented seller killed that defense before it started. I filed a civil suit against my parents for misuse of my grandmother's inheritance. My attorney argued the custodial account had a documented purpose, and my father violated his duty when he withdrew the funds. They settled out of court for $38,000. Not the full amount, but enough to clear my student loans with money left over. The day I made my last payment, I sat at the same kitchen table where this whole thing started. 6 years of checks. Gone. And in their place, a zero balance and a truth my family couldn't outrun. They spent 30 years teaching Victor that nothing he did would have consequences. I taught him different in one phone call. Thank you for staying with me. This is what Betrayal Answered is about. The truth, even when it costs something. If that matters to you, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.